It's Friday, August the 23rd, 2024. And I received this in the mail at some point this week. I just threw it on the table with the rest of the junk mail, and I probably should have threw it away, but I decided to open it today. Probably because of the video that I made yesterday. But so you're marking gas lines because what now? Okay. I try not to focus on stuff like this whenever I can. I try to be proactive and to turn it around into what can be done. But I'm really just pissed off this morning. I'm very heavily in my emotions, and I know that it was triggered by the comment of this reporter yesterday, of the sad clown, the Palestinian protesters as sad clowns.
Yeah, that's right. The protests, I think, have not been as bad as initially expected. On that first day, they breached a barrier, which concerned a lot of people. But since then, things have calmed down. And inside the hall, there have been a handful of very small, short disruptions, but nothing like the big fears that people had coming in. But it's still this striking tonal difference with these uncommitted delegates and their supporters. The mood is so festive and upbeat, and they are literally talking about dead children and their relatives suffering in Palestinian territories, and they acknowledge that this is no fun. They acknowledge, one said to me, feels like he's the sad clown in the corner of a party. They say they want to celebrate. These delegates are all Democrats. A lot of them have held public office or worked in public office. They say they want to support Kamala Harris, and they just want this kind of token symbolic gesture so that they feel they can go back to their supporters, their constituents, and say this party is listening to us and wants us in the tent.
And that on top of Roland Martin's commentary in the clip that I put in the video yesterday, it's just really, it doesn't even matter if it's only one person. If this is harassment, sending me crap like this. Because Metronet has been putting up stuff all around everywhere since 2020, somewhere around there. And but it doesn't matter to me if it's just one person, because that's all it takes. That's all it takes is one person. And so, but we know it's more than one person. We know it's an entire national convention size group of people who are the problem here, because you don't want to look at the reality beyond your privilege, and you assume that you're going to have your privilege forever, and you're not. Even if the earth were not to completely disintegrate, history will show you that you will not maintain your privilege. You can't, not in the system. You just can't. So I just needed, this is how I've been, and I've thought to myself today, maybe I need to just go ahead and do the federal filing to help people to know, anyone who has this mindset, she's not going to do anything or whatever, what is she waiting for? I'm waiting for the collective to be in agreement, to have the majority, and we have that. I know we have the majority. I could tell by the collateral programming in the media at the same time the DNC was going on, there were lots of people who were not watching the DNC and were completely disinterested in what they were talking about. And so they were talking about a lot of other things, and they were trying to get on with their lives and trying to figure out, what they want to do next. So, the fact that I could even access information like this during that time says something to me. But it only takes one person. And so at some point, these people have to be permanently dealt with, and whatever that looks like. And I'm just, it's days like this when I'm like, for what? As long as there's even one person, this is going to continue to be an issue. That sad clown comment, it's not, it's not this one particular reporter. I mean, y'all can feel free, those of you who know the reporter, to, get in his shit about this, that to interpret what was said to him in the interview versus just having them on camera and speak for themselves. I mean, you all do get that part, right? That, these people they're not in Gaza, where buildings are collapsing and they're dropping bombs. They were sitting out front of the convention and just asking for a voice. And all those media people in there, nobody put a camera on them and said, why are you out here? What is it that you're hoping to gain? Now they interviewed them and then got on camera and gave their own interpretation of what they said. But I haven't seen any interviews of any of those Palestinian protesters out there where you actually can hear them say for themselves what it is they want. Which is, I mean, that's the issue, right? I mean, that's the situation that I'm in. Why I have to be on social media, trying to counter the narrative. But that his interpretation of it would be that, they know they see themselves as a sad clown while everybody else is, celebrating. I mean, do you understand not only how disrespectful that is, but how, what a complete, what's the word I'm looking for? Contrast. What a complete contrast that is to where they were and what was going on at that time. That they are sitting out front peacefully protesting. They're not dropping bombs. They didn't, try to blow up the place. They didn't have guns out there. It wasn't January 6th. You know what I'm saying? So, and they couldn't get a vote. They couldn't get, an audience of the people that were going in there. That's biblical, right? Lazarus laying on the steps of the church, sores all over his body, and the people just going in the church, just stepping over top of him, just going in, like he's not even there, whatever. But we're not talking about just one person. We're talking about a whole huge group of people that said, we want a voice, we want to be able to speak. And there were delegates in this group. Delegates that should otherwise would have been in the convention, doing the same thing all the other delegates were doing in there and saying, our delegation supports da 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 blah blah. So I just, that sad clown thing. It's that mindset. You understand what I'm saying? You have to change your mind until people, even if it's one person, until everybody change their minds, everyone, and sees what's important and what's going on. Why would I want to celebrate anything? These people completely destroyed my life and separated my family in every conceivable way. Celebrate what? And and it's interesting, Roland Martin and his crew and all of them in there, and these people who, Black Lives Matter, and they want to do the whole Sonya Massey post-activism thing, which is, just a bunch of fake, nothing. And, and to not be able to put that together, that these people, Roland Martin made the comment that he did. And the reason why I chose that clip was because it was so salient how concretely he was able to show his hypocrisy and the hypocrisy of people who follow him and who listen to him.
And I'm going to say this to anybody out there who, all of you, whether you're Palestinian American, whether you're Arab American, whether you're African American, whether you're white American, and you are outside protesting, you're pushing, and you want action. ain't one black person not understanding that. That you can't talk to black folk about this because we understand about how do you put pressure. But in 1964,
there's no prevention in their mindset at all. It's all about just move forward like a bulldozer or like a tank and make this happen for our privilege. Roland Martin talk about black folk. You can't tell black or talk to black folk about the struggle. Well, nigga, you don't even know who black folk. Y'all can't decide who black folk is. Y'all got some kind of special, random rotating and cycling test for blackness. You got to be this, that, and the third in order to be considered black. So you are black if whatever you are doing will help support our privilege. You don't speak for black folks in the struggle. The struggle you have is a different kind of struggle. Yours is a Miralax, X-Lax type struggle. That's not the struggle that we are dealing with here. So I'm gonna do a little something here on Palestine for you people because you need to understand who is mortal and who is immortal, and you need to know which team you're on because there are some good people who think they're on the right team and you're not. And you need to now that the DNC is wrapped up, you need to choose your team, and you need to choose your team really soon. I'm going to walk you through briefly Palestine's application to join the United Nations, which began in 2011. But before I do that, I want to show you something from one of the videos that I'm going to share a clip from. So what you are about to be shown in the background here, there's nothing inherently wrong with the fact that this young lady is completely undistracted by this meeting because these meetings are really boring and for all intents and purposes, they're nonsense in the grand scheme of bringing together community. However, what it appears is happening is that this young lady is flirting with someone. And I want you to just take a moment to digest that for a second because what everybody really wants is to feel loved and accepted, which is inherent in the desire to find your eternal partner, which is the stage that she should be in. But this is a huge part of the problem, isn't it? So with that consideration in mind, let me try to walk you through this application and why the Palestinians are so upset. I'm not going to read through all this stuff for you, but here it is in the next few frames if you want to go and look it up and research it yourself, because most of y'all don't have an attention span long enough to listen to me read through it anyway. But this is from the United Nations website on what is necessary in order to join and become a member. So you have to apply to be a member. There is no part of paradise worldwide that requires that anybody be a member of anything in order to be protected from anyone else. That's the important thing for you to consider as I go through this. The other thing is, in that line of thinking is why would somebody want to join a union like this in order to be protected? For what reason? And then what kind of people would be seeking membership? Because it's not the Palestinians as a general population. There is a delegation of individuals in those areas who apply for this kind of membership and protection. Does that make sense to you? Like anything else, all of this information can be found online if you choose to look for it. But this is the actual application that was submitted in September of 2011 for membership of Palestine into the United Nations. It's not that long. Most of these documents aren't. And they're quick to read through, but boring unless you are someone who has privilege and would seek to have membership in something like this and need a template. This is the draft resolution addendum, literally, that the United States is highlighted in vetoing during this vote for Palestinian membership. This is all it says. Before I show you the clip where the Security Council vote was held for the denial of Palestine to the United Nations, I want to show you this clip from the International Court of Justice, who issued an opinion about Israel's occupation in Palestinian territories, because it's significant. Now, even though it supposedly is not legally binding, this is like the January 6th committee where all the information has been investigated and researched. So if someone wants to take legal action, all of the information is available to be able to do so, including their opinion about what happened and or what is happening and what they believe needs to occur. But obviously this is information that would inform a decision to vote for or against Palestine being accepted into the United Nations, which is supposed to be the peacekeeping side of the two sides that are necessary in order to keep this traumatic system going.
The nature of Israel's acts, including the fact that Israel frequently confiscates land following the demolition of Palestinian property for reallocation to Israeli settlements, indicates that its measures are not temporary in character and therefore cannot be considered as permissible evacuations under the Fourth Geneva Convention. In the court's view, Israel's policies and practices are contrary to the prohibition of forcible transfer of the protected population under Article 49, paragraph 1 of the Fourth Geneva Convention. The court further notes that Israel's settlement policy has given rise to violence by settlers and security forces against Palestinians. Having examined the evidence before it, in light of the relevant provisions of international law, the court considered that the violence by settlers against Palestinians, Israel's failure to prevent or to punish it effectively, and its excessive use of force against Palestinians contribute to the creation and maintenance of a coercive environment against Palestinians. In the present case, on the basis of the evidence before it, the court is of the view that Israel's systematic failure to prevent or to punish attacks by settlers against the life or bodily integrity of Palestinians, as well as Israel's excessive use of force against Palestinians, is inconsistent with its obligations.
So if you're unclear about what he just said, essentially he is talking about people sent into Palestine by Israel to say, we were looking for new lands and riches for our rulers, and we decided we want yours. And so can you just pack up and leave so that we can take it? And the Palestinians fighting back because they don't want that. But then the higher powers who are warmongers and who use these conflicts in order to gain control of an area and therefore the population of an area are pissed off because Israel will not follow directions and are going in and not only are damaging the property, which would be the people, but they're also taking over the land space, and that's not aligned with how they plan to do things. The reference document is the Geneva Fourth Convention. So you can look that up and read that through to better understand what the expectations are of the members in relative to peacekeeping. But the bottom line is, this is exactly what I explained to you and outlined to you in the walkthrough of the high school textbook and how that plays out in my own life and in the lives of people who are living in Norfolk and Hampton Roads in 2024. Now let's move on so that you can actually see the vote.
Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2024 312 please raise their hand. Those against? Thank you. Abstentions?
The United States continues to strongly support a two-state solution. This vote does not reflect opposition to Palestinian statehood, but instead is an acknowledgement that it will only come from direct negotiations between the parties.
This is the part where you divide the factions and start making deals to gain loyalists.
We believe that such recognition of Palestinian statehood should not come at the start of a new process, but it doesn't have to be at the very end of the process. We must start with fixing the immediate crisis in Gaza.
This is the part where you recognize the differences between the Gaza natives and the Hamas natives, and you start making deals with whoever is losing to gain your loyalists.
Gaza is occupied Palestinian territory and must be part of a future Palestinian state. However, Hamas is still in control of parts of Gaza, and Israeli hostages remain in captivity. This shows that we're still at the start of the process. Ensuring Hamas is no longer in charge of Gaza and removing Hamas capacity to launch attacks against Israel are essential and unavoidable steps on the road to lasting peace.